to episode 2 of the Beez Podcast, and we are here today with Bernii Mac. Thank you for doing this, and would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your music career so far?
Sure, yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Bernii Mac. I'm founder of Becoming the Artist, which is a brand new online membership for the new musical artists. It's basically music mentoring for artists who are just starting out in their career and would like a little bit of guidance. And it's also for artists who lack self-esteem or have, confidence issues, as it were, and they have a lot of self-doubts and things that might hold them back in their career, which was a big part of my career, So it's a real supportive, safe space for artists to come and learn and grow and develop who they are, with industry professionals such as myself and Dave Rajan, who's head of radio at Parlophone Records, and other industry mentors who will be coming in to guide you and teach you. So that's what Becoming the Artist is. I started out as an artist myself. I'm born into a family of professional musicians, classical musicians, and my dad's also a jazz musician. So I started off singing jazz with him. And I then went on, just to cut like a really long story short, because it's like 22 years. I then went to BIM, the Brighton Institute of Modern Music, where I formed my own band, and I started singing backups for cuppa blues artists called Danny Wilde and Will Wilde. And after doing that for a little while and doing some cool things like a couple of festivals, and we sang on Radio 2, etc. I then went to New York and I experienced the American commercial music industry. I was freelancing for Amazing Radio at the time, and I was also singing backup for an artist there who was being developed by a very well-known American rapper, and got to experience that side. So yeah, I've had quite a varied career.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds amazing. So can I quickly ask you, what are the most common sort of confidence issues that you see with artists? Like, is there one thing that always comes up, or is it quite varied? Like, what is the main kind of issue they have with it?
I think the main thing is lack of self-belief. Like, am I good enough to do this? Am I good enough? Because there's so much competition out there, and people really become aware of that. So yeah, am I good enough to do this? Will I really succeed? Am I capable of handling the industry? I think when you are a bit shaky in your core, and I've experienced this myself, it is difficult to see how you could ever succeed in such a
cutthroat industry.
Yeah, certainly some of it really is cutthroat, and there's other sides that are obviously nicer, but especially if you're going into like the commercial side, obviously it's, as we all know here on this call, it's a machine. So yeah, I think that's the biggest part. And also I think a lot of people are afraid to be seen on stage. There is like it's a different thing to what I'm just speaking about, but it like stage fright and things like that, like that's real, so. But all of these things, they hold us back, or they can hold us back if we let them, and they can definitely affect our career choices if you don't have that self-belief.
You've seen the industry from, obviously you've had like a really huge varied career, which is amazing. Like, I'm so excited to talk to you today because I'm like fangirling over you, like as a businesswoman. I'm like, oh my god. But like, you've had such a varied career and it's spanned over such a long time, so you would have seen the industry from when it would have been as organic as, like, similar to us, like going to auditions, and there wouldn't been social media, and building up your fan base by gigging and merch and all that kind of stuff. And like now it's obviously very social media based. It's about how many followers you have, being very online present. So like how do you find that impacts in terms of, one, confidence? Because I find, I don't know if it's because I'm older now, but I find it more daunting going down the social media route, because it feels more of a platform to be judged than being on stage. Like, I don't know how you found the differences with how the music industry's changed.
I think it's like one more job for new artists to do. I mean, I know when I was starting out, probably when you were starting out, was like the early 2000s. I started training a little bit earlier than that, but my career started probably around 2004. And yeah, I mean, even at that point, we were doing everything ourselves, especially as an independent artist. You are the photographer, you are doing the artwork, we weren't doing as much self-producing, but we still had to have the vision, we had to create the brand. And now it's like, it's all of that, and you learn the self-production. A lot of people do self-production, and then they have to learn the social media and Spotify And I think this like constant having to release single after single after single can be really like a lot of pressure. It adds just like, for me, from what I've seen, it just adds another layer of pressure and intensity. And it's a job that unfortunately takes away from the creative process, which is why we're all doing it in the first place. You know, so
yeah, I feel like social media alone is a full-time job for any business or artist. Like for artists who work like 9 to 5 and then obviously do their music stuff in the evenings and weekends, like I just don't know how they manage to do it all. It's insane. So if you had to be a new artist now, would you choose to be in pre or post social media era?
Oh,
Good question.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Just, I mean, I think social media is amazing in some ways, but I also think that we're all way more self-conscious than we used to be, and we care too much about likes. And like, just as a quick side note, I cannot stand all of these. I don't mind filters on Instagram and stuff because they're fun, but you know, when you get these serious filters that like, you can have a beautiful face too, and like, here's the before and here's the after, and it's just this ridiculous like moving away you know, from who we really are as people, and setting this ridiculous standard. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for the brand, I'm all for, like, I actually love the business side of the music industry, and stylization. I happen to like love all of that, like Marilyn Monroe and that whole era. But I think this takes it to a whole other level. And like, I don't know if I'm a hypocrite saying that. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that argument in my head. But I just hate the fact that young girls are being so exposed to it. Like my niece, like, she's got all of this, you know, and she's now growing up with this unrealistic standard of, and I just, that kind of winds me up. So definitely.
Yeah, I think for the filters, it's like, as well, it's who gets to decide what's beautiful. Like for me, like when I work with artists on branding, like I try to get their authentic selves out, and any kind of quirk or unique thing or thing they're uncomfortable with, like I try to bring that out, get them super comfortable with it, and I don't know, make them embrace it. Like that's what's them. If everyone was just the same, like if everyone just looked the same, no one would be successful. Like it's just crazy to me. And like you said about numbers as well, like I find so many, I don't know, I guess agencies, companies, maybe labels are just now so about the numbers. Like, oh, this artist had this many hits, and it's like, obviously that's a really big achievement, and I think that should be celebrated. But like, I just feel like the goal should be longevity in the industry and having a music career, and being really like super satisfied with it, rather than just hitting numbers here and there and everywhere. It just feels a bit like empty. It feels like the core, the artistry has almost been taken out of it, and it's just about, you know, empty numbers.
Empty in general.
Yeah, like I think as well, like being like from a pre-side of things, like you would have had to connect with people and build up your fan base on a really real basis. So like showing up, like being at gigs, at showcases, at events, or whatever it may be, but being there in person and connecting with people on a very real basis when you're on, say, Instagram or TikTok, or maybe more on Instagram, but like having those filters. Like, I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. Like if I take a picture, it would be from this angle or like that, to get my best side or to look the slimmest I can, and that's not necessarily real. And as an artist, could you imagine if you're just kind of posting all these kind of very filtered or, you know, best angled pictures, and then having to then go into the real world and then be like, oh well, everyone's going to see all the angles of me now. Like it's adding another layer of anxiety. Because it's like you've got your social media side of you, or the way that you want to look or be presented, and then you've got reality, and actually the reality is kind of what life is.
Yeah, exactly. And especially to a young mind, and I think that's the problem I really have with it. It's how many people we're reaching on, like, you know, that have access to these filters, and you know, I was just about to grab my phone, but you know what I mean? It's like, that's what gets to me. It's the young, it's not even necessarily artists, it's just like a general, for me, like just the young people who have access to this now, and what they're growing up with, and the pressures that they have, that thank God I didn't have growing up. Like I got to run around as a 10-year-old and like play in mud and have water fights with my friends, you know, and I just didn't care what I looked like. And I'm like, I have 4 nieces, and I have 2 I have like a great niece and I have a great nephew as well, and I see the differences in what they have, you know, their childhood. So that's just something
I have a great niece and great nephew.
I do.
How old are you? Are you like 100? Vampire.
No comment.
That wasn't a real question.
Like rule number one as a woman, never tell your age. In the music industry. No, but I have a sister who's 10 years older than me.
Nice.
So that kind of actually fits in quite nicely with my next question, which is obviously as a female in the industry, obviously there are I think there are lots of different pressures for both genders, both male and female, and obviously, you know, now obviously there's gender fluid, etc. But I think for predominantly back, you know, 20 years ago, there's a lot of pressure being a female in the industry because you were presented in a certain way. I don't think that's changed. But what was your experience in the industry as an artist? Like, how were you treated by producers? How were you treated by the industry? Were there any instances of, you know, misconduct or inappropriate things, like anything that made you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, quite a bit actually. So I think I had a couple of different experiences. So initially when I was living in Brighton and doing my independent career, my experience with producers was pretty cool actually. Yeah, says a lot about Brighton at the time anyway. And but when I moved out of Brighton and I moved more into the commercial music industry, it definitely got a bit shady. And I think it's hard for a woman out there. I think it's hard because I think generally it just is harder for women in the music industry. There aren't as many women waving the flags in the music industry as there could be. And it's like when I first got to New York, like one of the first questions I was asked was, like you know that you're going to have to sleep with someone to get where you want to go.
No.
Yeah. So, you know, that there was definitely that well, and I've been aware that can happen in the music industry. It can happen in any industry. Let's be honest. This is not unique to the music industry. But I think just having it so blatantly said to me.
Yeah. So
it becomes very real then, doesn't it?
How old were you at the time when that was said, and how did you, like, what was going on in your head? What was your response? Like, for me, as a very, very young artist, I would have just been so like, okay.
Yeah.
I think my response was, well, honestly, each to their own. Like, I'm not going to sit here and comment on any decision that anyone's made on that. I just don't have the right to do that, and I don't know their personal circumstances. And there's just no judgment at all from me. But I think for me, I was like, it's not something that I would even consider, you know. And I don't know if that's because my parents are musicians and they kind of warned me about that stuff, and my dad had said to me, like, make sure you never do that. I don't know if I just like had his voice in my head. But I think the point is that it just felt limiting as a woman to be in New York on my own, first of all, without a team around me, which I wouldn't advise anyone to do. I think if you're going to go to another country, make sure you have a good team that you trust, like a team of people around you trust in the industry, or you're at least going to one. I think it was just that, well, hey, how do I handle it? It's just uncomfortable. Like, because then you're in this position where you're like, well, an opportunity might be offered to me by I'm not going to say producer, but by anyone. It's not just producers. It's anyone in the industry. And how am I going to handle that situation? Am I going to F up this opportunity? Basically, it doesn't mean I'm not going to get that. I think that's the thought process that sent my head spinning a little bit. I would have appreciated if that someone hadn't. I didn't appreciate that person saying that to me, put it that way.
No, is that thing of like, am I prepared to lose work based on this?
Yeah. Is it going to hinder my career? I think that's where my head went. You know?
But also, like, if you're getting that opportunity because you've slept with someone, like, you just want to get the opportunity because you're good, right? It's like, in the back of your mind, it's always going to be like, oh, well, okay, it's because I slept with them. Like, it's just not. And the same for the other side, even like the producer or whoever it is, like, you want people who are good, not people who are going to sleep with you. Like, it's just not the right way to judge something. Baffling. It is,
and I want to say here, and it's so important I do say this, is that, like, this is not in my experience, not everyone in the industry. There are so many amazing men working in the music industry. This was just, I think there's just a portion that aren't, and like that is true in life, isn't it? Like you walk down the street, amazing person walks by, you walk down the street, and someone who is a little bit shady, you know what I mean? Like it's just everywhere. So I'm not like dissing the music industry here, by the way. But it is something that I would like to, I would prefer other women didn't have to go through. You know, if we can somehow change that, I think that, and that's a big part of becoming the artist, because I wanted to create this like super safe, supportive space for new artists, where the people that are mentoring them are people that I trust. Like they're giving really solid advice, they're really solid industry connections, as it were, and they can offer them that kind of exposure that you know, it's all because, you know, you guys know it's like the music industry is built on relationships. So it's putting these people in front of people that I think are good people in the industry.
Yeah, and I think what we all agree is just having the conversation, like letting people know that actually now it's okay to talk about it, and we are here to guide and advise and give people that like support as well. So leading on, what are the like positive and negative aspects your career has had on your mental health?
Yes, this is a big one for me. So I think the positive aspect is, like you guys probably feel it as well as artists, is that having a vessel that you can express yourself into is so good for your mental health. It's a real tool that we have as creators. And I think the negative comes from, the business, because I think as creators, we can sometimes be more sensitive than other people, and we're not always built to handle a business. And this is why having a team is so important, and who are built to handle those scenarios and can protect you a little bit from it. So I think for me, again, because I didn't have the team, and because I threw myself into situations that I didn't know were going to be damaging, it did affect my mental health. And so now I'm like a huge advocate for the awareness surrounding it, because, you know, like mental health is it's not like 1 minute you're fine and the next minute you're not fine. It's like it might be that you don't recognize it for a while, but the mental health comes from like the daily effects of things that are happening. This can sometimes be, in my experience, and I'm not a trained professional, but it's something that can really build up, and that's what happened to me. And do you know what I mean? So I wish I caught it a bit sooner and taken myself out of that situation to protect myself. You know,
yeah, for sure. It can just slowly fester and you bury it and you think, oh no, it's fine, and then it like bubbles, and then one day it's like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And sorry, go on.
Oh, and I was just going to say, I guess, I think you worded it really well, like they're going from the free play creative side to then like the business side. I guess it's that we have to be constantly switching between the two. And I guess it's acknowledging when you need to switch and what mode you need to be in order to, like, I guess, manage your, like, the mental health as well.
I think part of it is like, it reiterates what we've kind of been saying. I think I said it on the previous episode, which is that, you know, as an artist, with whatever scale, you are the CEO of your own brand. So if you are the CEO of your own business, your own brand, then you would have people under you who'll be there working for you, managers, agents, like marketing. You'd have all these people. And even as a DIY artist, you're going to be spending the money anyway on production and recording, on paid ads. So it makes sense to save up that money and to spend it on the team of people who are going to do it for you. So you're not having to do it, and you're just focusing on creating and being, like Bernii said, that vessel for doing everything that is so cathartic and, you know, important to you, but not having to do all the things that are kind of maybe soul destroying to some people. And also for safety, and, you know, especially if you're a solo artist, having a team behind you is so important. It's just that kind of, I don't know, that power behind you, I guess. So definitely really feel the importance of, regardless of where you are in your career and who you are, getting a team of people behind you is so important.
Yeah, just for that community feel, I think, as well, like having those relationships, like for your general just happiness and enjoyment. I think, like, we're like humans are built on connection, aren't they, and community. So I think that alone is just good for mental health and just well-being, as well as obviously helping with all those tasks that artists maybe can't do themselves or just don't like doing. Yeah, super important.
Yeah, definitely good to get second opinions. And it's really important to say they have to be a team people you trust as well, like people that you really, really trust, like people that get your vision, they understand where you want to go, and they're on board with you as a person. I think just having other people look out for you and just having someone that you can go to and just go, hey, what do you know, is this a good deal, or how should I behave? Like, how would you handle this situation? Which I guess we're mentors, right? And I think in some ways we play that role for artists, you know, having us, because we have experience that new artists won't have. And I think if you, yeah, maybe for an artist it won't be necessarily that you have a manager or like necessarily straight out the bat this whole team, but maybe you can have, you know, a council of elders, you can have a mentor, you know, and a mentor that you really trust. Again, I think trust is a really important part.
Yeah, for sure. And knowing that their intentions are good and that their intentions are to have your back and not for any other gain.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with the mental health side, do you feel like that you're more, as a creative, like you and perhaps others as well, like you're more inclined to have to potentially face issues with your mental health in this industry, or do you think that it's just becoming more prevalent now as time is going on? Or
how do you mean? Sorry, I don't quite understand.
So in terms of the creative industry, there's a lot of things that people say, like, you know, oh, as a creative you're more inclined to be like susceptible to mental health issues. Do you feel like that perhaps the creative industry that we're in, it can impact us more and we are more likely to have issues with mental health? Or do you think that it's just the way that the kind of the world is going now, in terms of everyone's a bit more open about it and it can happen to anyone, any industry?
Oh, it's such a good question. I mean, the music industry is the only industry that I know, so I don't know if I can answer all of that, but I do think generally, I do think social media creates mental health. And I'll tell you why as well, because we're all so distracted now. Like, you know, when you're trying to read an article online, and then there's 8 million ads that pop up, and then there's a notification here, and like our brains are just going all the time. I don't know if it's just because I didn't grow up with that. I don't know what you guys think, but that to me is, I find that like makes me dizzy.
I find that very stressful. And like even with TikTok and like Instagram reels, I absolutely love creating reels and I can be really creative with it. But when I go on a page and something auto plays at me and keeps auto playing, like even if I go and check comments, the thing will auto play all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, like it's definitely stressful. Yeah, like I just need calm sometimes. Like I don't want anything to auto play ever.
Like I was having a bit of a stressful day, and I took myself upstairs and put on YouTube like a meditation, like a calming meditation. I was like, I'm just gonna meditate, and then like adverts. So this guy was like, and you're feeling, you can feel your feet, and it was like, no. I was like, oh, I was like trying to be calm, and then it was like advert every time I get back in the zone. It was like,
oh bless
like,
you.
Like, do you want to be pregnant? Do you want ovulation? Like, oh, it's like, oh, I can't. But like even yesterday, I was building up my Instagram, and I suddenly, like, I was building up my following because obviously with business, kind of it's a necessity, and it kind of blew up in a miniature way, I guess. But then I started having like so many notifications from Instagram, like I had like 40 messages in my inbox, and then comments and likes, and then I felt like, I was like, oh, I really feel like I really want to deal with this, but I don't want to. And I had to just turn the notifications off in the end, because I was like, I cannot look at this, I can't do this anymore.
Which is good. And it's good you did, because like, this is what I mean, this is part of self-care, isn't it? It's and I just think sometimes we think, because like now there's never a time, unless you turn your phone off and your phone's not linked to your laptop, because that's annoying as well. You turn your phone off and it comes up on the laptop. So I can't escape. But I just think like we're always on now, and especially when you are the CEO of a business, and like you mentioned earlier on, Rose, like artists are like they are the CEO of their own businesses, and it's not like we keep like 9 to 5 hours and then we just like leave the office and we can we have to place that structure in for ourselves, and we have to have that boundary in that, like, I'm going to turn my notifications off at 8 p.m. or whatever, whenever I'm finished doing my publicity or whatever I need to do. And I think that's like a real part of self-care.
Oh, for sure. And like,
definitely.
When I started my own businesses, I decided to have a work phone and a personal phone, just because then I could turn off my work phone and not keep looking at it. It's bad enough. I'm bad enough anyway, just looking at my phone. But obviously I've got a little girl, and I really try not to be on my personal phone as much and on WhatsApp or whatever I'm doing. So like having loads of work stuff come through, especially if you're a business owner and you love your job. You want to do it, but then equally you're like, oh, I can't, and it's just bad. So it's that kind of, but then people would be like, why do you have a second phone? Well, they would think I was a drug dealer first, but then they'd be like, why do you have a second phone? Like, just use your personal phone. I'm like, well, no, because this is what will happen. I will be bombarded with stuff and I'll want to deal with it straight away, and I just need to shut off and have structure, like structured work hours.
That's such a valid point, because I'm the same way. I was sort of taught by someone in the industry years and years ago, like really like a big time person. He was like, if you get a text, like you deal with it right then and there. Otherwise you'll forget to deal with it, and then you're not on your game. And I really held that. And then of course, I think it's like we all work with new artists, right? And I think when I first started out doing that, if they were messaging me and I didn't have like the second phone, I would just want to get back to them, because I'd know that they needed an answer right then and there. And I would feel guilty if I wasn't getting back to them. But again, that's something I had to learn. Like, you need to put a boundary in, Bernii. Like, it's and it doesn't make you any less of a mentor. It actually makes you a better mentor, because you're protecting your own mental health in your own space, you know, and we all need to do that. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Oh,
definitely. Yeah.
Like I stopped, like last night, I just kind of stopped looking at or answering the messages, because I was like, look, I wouldn't be working at this time. Like, I'm not doing it. And then someone, like one of the followers, just went in Instagram video called me, like, which I didn't even know was a thing, by the way. And then I was like, oh, I don't, what? No. So I was like, I turned it off. But my boyfriend, who is he's a life coach, but he's also written books about mindfulness and anxiety and mental health. He hates doing all the promotion on social media. Like, he tries not to be on his phone. And Fergie, you know, like Fergie, the Duchess of York, she read his children's book on her YouTube channel, which was amazing. So then obviously he had to promote it. But by the end of the day, he was like, oh, I've been on my phone so much that I can't, my head hurts. Like, I feel spun out. I don't like this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally get that. I turned like my notifications off a while ago. So now I did get into like a bad habit of like constantly checking. And now it's like I will forget my phone for a couple of hours and then think, okay, I'm going to go on and check things. And that's like, I couldn't handle just being notified of every like or every comment or whatever. Like, I just couldn't handle it. I totally get that. It's like having loads of people in your house like prodding you. Like, I couldn't do it.
And also, like, it can be a vicious cycle. I think as an artist as well, it's really important to have that ethos of, you know, business hours, like treat it as a business and have those hours. And equally, if you're kind of like being notified all the time of these likes, and then you're kind of looking at your phone all the time, you're kind of feeding into that cycle of needing people's validation and likes and comments, because it gives you that rush. And actually, you just need to not be dependent on that and just treat it as like a job kind of thing.
It's definitely addictive, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the screen is addictive, and it does affect our mental health. It can't be healthy looking at a screen as often as we do. Like, do you ever find that you go from like the laptop, because now everything's been on Zoom during pandemic, right? So even the singing lessons I give, and Rose, probably for you as well, like, you know, I don't know if you're a singing teacher as well, but it's like everything's online. You go from like the laptop, and then you pick up your phone, and then you go like to your TV or something. You know, it's just constant
screen.
No, I know. I'll finish like a Zoom lesson. I'm like, oh God, I'm really tired. Like my eyes are not getting a break. Like, oh, I'm just switch off and then just like look at my phone.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
bad.
But I think looking after mental health and understanding that social media is not the be all and end all, and it's not life. It's a tool. It's not life.
Definitely. Yeah.
And to really cut that cut that kind of cord and just have that separation and stuff, because it must be really addictive to have people say, we like you, we like you, we like you, especially when you're younger. Like, I feel when I was like younger, I really would have craved people's validation and really wanted to be liked. So that would have been, I'm glad that we didn't have all this when I was, that age, because it would have been awful for me.
Yeah, and it does kind of prey on that need for, like, which is a total human need, isn't it? It's like, it's in our DNA. We're hardwired to want approval and to be in social standing with the people around us. It's how we survived, right? So yeah, I do feel like social media sort of preys on that. Like, I'm the same as you. Like, in my early 20s, I was really insecure, and if I could have had social media and loads of, like, 50,000 people or 100,000 people telling me I looked amazing, of course I would be drawn to that and get sucked into that world.
Yeah,
wouldn't.
And like, even like in real life, like, you kind of learn as you get older, and you learn through life that people are going to like you and they're not going to like you, and if they don't like you, then that's their issue. It's not yours, and they're completely entitled, and that's okay. You're not going to like everyone. Doesn't mean that they hate you or it's the end of the world. It's just life. But when you're on Instagram and you see, like, even I had this, I was looking at my insights because I'm an idiot, and I was like, oh cool, new followers, and I was like, 7 people unfollowed me. Why did they unfollow me? Am I not interesting enough? And on an Instagram, it's not like you're necessarily, the first thing you see is a picture. So there's, I think for a young person, you might be like, am I not pretty enough? Like, why didn't they like that picture of me? Like, people have, it's just so annoying.
Yeah, it's easy to spiral, I think, isn't it? Especially for young or vulnerable people, for sure. It does prey on our human instinct, and we just need to learn, I guess, because we're all the kind of generation that's seen it rise and are now in the midst of it. Like, it's learning how to manage it now and have those boundaries.
Yeah, definitely. So Bernii, what's your, like, in terms of what you do now, which is mentoring and teaching, obviously, like, what's the best bit about your job? Like, what do you really love about your job and think, oh, this is why I do it?
Seeing people succeed, because I've got this philosophy, and I always have, right, that, like, we're only, and some people will disagree with this because they believe in afterlife and stuff, and that's totally cool, but I just think, like, we're only here once, so let's make the best life that we can. And I think I saw a lot of people growing up who because they didn't have, I was so lucky. Okay, I was really lucky because I had a family that really supported, they understood that music drive, being musicians themselves, and so they really supported me to go for, like, an alternative way of life, as it were. And I have a dad who really encouraged me to be a strong woman as well, which I really appreciate, and but not everyone has that. And it's not that they don't have loving families at all. It's not that. It's just that some families don't understand the music world, and it's not like just what. So if you don't grow up with people that understand it, then you might not go for it. And if you don't have the support that you need and people encouraging you to go for it, then you might go into, like, it's a nice dream, but I belong in this route, and they go down a route that isn't as fulfilling to their soul. So I think being able to help people and offer them that community and that self-belief that they are capable of doing it, and to really just create the life that they want to live. And especially if they happen to be a bit nervous as well. Like, I've had a few students that have been so scared to sing on stage, like literally crying, like too scared to even sing in front of me. One of them's just got picked up for the West End, and she's only 8. And another student, obviously, who I won't name, but she had a horrible situation happen in her personal life, and she was very anxious, and I really related to that. And she's now, like, fronting her own band, and I just think that there's a sense of liberation in that, overcoming that fear. And so, yeah, that's the best bit for me, is being that support network for them so they can really go off and do what they want to do.
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, I totally get that, because like my family are very normal. They're very much like, have a plan B. Just get a nice job, like, and you do need that around you. You need to you have to be so much stronger in that circumstance, and obviously just having that available to you is just so beneficial, like the most beneficial thing ever. Okay, so we'll start to wrap up. What one piece of advice would you give to one, upcoming music artists, and then two, to anyone who wants a career in the music industry?
Okay, question one. Find out who you are. Like, take the time to discover who you are. There's no rush. Like, really work on your music, find your sound, say things the way that you want to say them. Like, don't feel like you have to, just because Ariana Grande is saying it this way and looks this way, that you have to then go and be like her. You know, it's like, we've already got her, we need you. So that's it's basically authenticity, isn't it? And what was the second question?
One piece of advice for anyone who wants a career in the music industry, like outside of being an artist.
Outside of being an artist, get yourself to industry events, build relationships, always be humble, always be reliable, do a good job, work your way up.
I really love that. Like, we've got her, we need you. I think that's such a empowering.
Yeah.
It really got me in the feels. I don't know why. It really did. Like, genuinely.
I know, I really cried saying it, but it's so but it's so true, isn't it? It's because it's that whole thing, like, we're always told like we need to change. Well, we're not always told that, but I think we sometimes just feel that.
And ourselves are not good enough.
We totally don't have to change. We can just be ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, I love you.
I love you too.
I love you guys too.
Last question from me. What would you say to yourself, like the younger version of you who was an up and coming artist? Like, what would you say to yourself then, like with all the knowledge you have now?
Oh gosh, you know what it is? Like, believe in yourself. You've got the talent, and just believe in yourself. That would just be it. Like, you've got it, girl.
Yay.
Amazing. Oh, let's wrap it up on that, because that was all the fills. Thank you so much.
Tears, not really.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome. And I know you haven't had much sleep, and but yeah, thank you so much. It's been great. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or any thoughts, then add them down below in the comments. And yeah, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
It's kind of free reign to just chat.
I think Bernie's gone.
Oh. Oh no! My background. Keep this in the podcast. Hi.
I totally just kicked myself out. I clicked leave meeting instead of continue.